Well, we're going to have to, and I don't think there's a partisan discussion on this issue about reducing our dependency on foreign oil. I think everybody wants to reduce our dependency on foreign oil. So I'll just join the throng and say that. Now, the devil's in the details. Now, how do you do that? Because we are so dependent on oil, on fossil fuels. And so in the interim, I think that we're going to have to find a way to drill domestically. And I have been an advocate for offshore drilling off the continental shelf and in Anwar. If the scientists are accurate in terms of what kind of reserves we have, based on the footprint of our need to be able to draw oil from these areas and our ability technologically to do it safely and not disrupt unnecessarily the environment, I think we have to drill domestically. And I think we have to find a source of oil to, shall we say, tide us over while we go about the parallel process of trying to find alternative sources. And I'm an all of the above kind of guy. I really believe that we have to enhance our ability to create nuclear power in this country. It's been proven to be a very successful source of electricity in the United States. Problem is that in the FERC, there's such the regulatory process just to permit a nuclear reactor is so outrageous that it's a barrier to us being able to do in the nuclear field what I believe we should be able to do. I just came back from Fort Smith. You know, we did the groundbreaking today on a Japanese company that's going to be building wind turbines down in the Fort Smith area. Arkansas has all of a sudden emerged as kind of a go-to place for wind power. And that's a great source of jobs, not only in Arkansas, but across our country. But enhanced solar capability, biomass technology. Again, come back and empower the entrepreneurs and the scientists out there to come up with the best practices and the best methods of creating an alternative source of energy, while at the same time, because of our dependency on oil, that we have a chance to drill locally and be able to draw oil. Now, I'm a big believer that if we can reduce our reliance on foreign oil, that if we can find it locally, that it would be put basically to use here in the United States of America. My opponent seems to think that if we draw more oil here, it's more oil that gets shipped overseas to our trading adversaries. But the problem is that that's at a tremendous cost. To me, logically, if we can find it here and be able to save on the transportation and logistics cost of transporting it elsewhere and refining it elsewhere, that I think the United States of America has the best opportunity to be able to reduce its dependency on Middle East oil and oil from Venezuela and anywhere else by being able to drill locally. So we got to cross those barriers of the environment, make sure they're ecologically friendly, and I think we can do that. I was not in favor of the moratorium after the BP disaster. It's a terribly tragic and unfortunate event, an ecological disaster, as it were. But there were a lot of things wrong with what happened with the BP and the Deepwater Horizon that are totally unrelated to energy policy. I think it was a lot of oversight, and those people should be held accountable. And I think government has a place in that process, and I think several people failed the general public in that oversight process. But again, we sent a message out there that we're not interested in job creation. We just killed a bunch of jobs and stifled an economy based on an unfortunate incident in the Gulf. Those are some of my ideas. Again, I say I'm all of the above. I believe that any source of energy out there that can reduce our dependency on the fossils, the better off we are. Now, before we leave that subject, let me say one thing about corn, particularly because we just went through a process where we spiked corn prices and we really affected our food suppliers and our cattle operations because we found another source of use for corn. I'm very concerned about the use of feedstuffs that are purposed in other areas, particularly feeding our nation and the world, in trying to make those into commodities for fuel production. I would rather us channel our energy toward finding using the residue or the unused portions of those foodstuffs to be able to create those sources of energy. But gosh, what happened when we saw those corn prices spike a couple of years ago and the impact it had on our food industry? Now the corn growers loved it. because they're selling corn at a much higher rate. But we have to be careful that we don't shoot ourselves in the foot by fixing a problem on this side and then creating second and third order effects on the other side that come back and haunt us in many other ways, particularly as it pertains to the cost of food.